Okay, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar. We're going to go ahead and start here. My name is Michael Clanahan with LinkedAll Aerial Solutions, and I'm excited to discuss the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced here. A little bit about LinkedAll. We're actually a DJI Enterprise Solutions provider and a certified DJI repair center based here in Houston. We focus primarily on applications such as energy, construction, public safety, agriculture, and many more. I'm accompanied here with Francisco Toro, who's our solutions engineer at DJI Enterprise North America. Francisco, if you don't mind saying a little bit about yourself too.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Francisco Toro. I'm a solution engineer here at DJI North America, focusing on the energy vertical, and happy to be attending LinkedAll's webinar.
Thank you, Francisco. Without further ado, I'm going to dive right in here. These are some of the topics that we're going to cover today, starting with the key features of the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced, applications, the LinkedAll integrations, and lastly, the specifics and frequently asked questions. Here's a short video of the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced.
Great, so I'll start off with the key features for the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. Specifically, we're going to discuss the improved thermal sensor, which now has a 640 by 512 thermal resolution, which is also radiometric. It allows up to 16 times digital zoom capabilities, and the thermal sensor size is now comparable to our H20T series or XZ2 series gimbal cameras, if you're familiar with those. The enhanced visual sensor has also been upgraded to 48 megapixels, same half-inch CMOS sensor type, and then we also have the 32 times digital zoom capability as well. We have the RTK module attachment. It's an accessory which allows centimeter level accuracy during inspections. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Michael, do you have anything to add to this?
Absolutely. So this is great for all of the industries that we cover: public safety, energy, construction, and even applicable in agriculture. Now we'll dive right into the accessories, and I'll hand it back over to Francisco.
So here we have the RTK module on the top left, which supports NTRIP. So it's not necessarily for surveying per se, but it is capable of centimeter level accuracy during flights. We also have the beacon, which is used to comply with night op regulations and can be viewed at up to a mile away. And then we also have the DJI Smart Controller, which is an ultra bright 5.5-inch 1080p display. And because of the brightness, it allows our users to view this even in direct sunlight. And it does come pre-installed with the DJI Pilot application, and it allows third-party applications to be supported as well for custom solutions. And I'll pass it on to Michael to discuss the other three accessories.
Absolutely. So as you can see below here, we have the speaker, the spotlight, and the Mavic 2 Enterprise Fly More Kit. The speaker is great because you can actually do instant broadcasts. You can also do recordings on loop. This actually gives you the ability to give commands to either a search and rescue option or even in a law enforcement scenario. Next, you have the spotlight here. It is 1100 lumens, and you can use it in night operations or even during a low light operation. And lastly, you have your Mavic 2 Enterprise Fly More Kit, which completes this kit here with 2 Mavic 2 Enterprise batteries, a car charger, charging hub, power bank adapter, 1 pair of props, and lastly that bag. So as you can see, this whole package is great for each platform you have here. So consider that the pricing breakdown here, though. The RTK module is sold separately, and the Mavic 2 Enterprise Flymore kit is sold separately. But you do get the beacon, the spotlight, and the speaker in there, and the smart controller. And now we'll go into the applications section.
Great. So in this section, we're going to discuss the enhanced fast response, the low light operations, and the visual and IR capabilities. Starting off with the 640 by 512 thermal resolution sensor. Because it's a larger sensor, it improves the detection probability for search and rescue missions. We also have a visual camera, which enables the user to generate reconstruction models for analysis. So yeah, on the bottom left, you see an image or a video of an object. And here, because the digital zoom has been improved, we can easily identify a person walking by at a height of 328 feet. And then on the right, we have the new multi-view user interface, which allows our users to simply switch between IR, visible, or split mode to quickly change camera views. So depending on which one you would like to see, you can do that with a simple touch of the button. And because it's a smaller drone, it's quick to deploy and easy to transport, which we think is a great add-on. So Michael, what is your take on this?
This is great. This platform is great for both fire departments, law enforcement agencies, search and rescue, emergency response. All those can use this in pretty much every day-to-day operation they have. As Francisco touched on it, it does allow at a much higher altitude to make out objects and people during an operation. For example, in most cases, when you order a helicopter, it's going to take about 30 to 45 minutes for it to come on scene. While with this Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced, you can have it quickly deployed, quickly out there, and then conduct the mission in a timely manner. Now I'll roll it back to Francisco to touch on the second part of public safety.
Next slide, please. All right, so on this in this section right here, because we have the larger thermal sensor, on the bottom left picture, which is actually a video, we will be able to see that we can clearly identify objects from a height of 100 feet. So no digital zoom in required. We can identify the objects on the bottom right, which is two people walking by, vehicles, and structures around us. Comparing this with the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual, which can also identify objects at the same height, but as you can see here, it may not be as clear. So that is an advantage of the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. So yeah, any thoughts on this, Michael?
I do. So as Francisco touched on it, the height is much better with the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced when you're actually using the thermal out in the field. You also want to consider with the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual, you did have the MSX overlay, which is mixing visual and thermal together for that output. In the Advanced, you do not have that, so there's really it really makes it a kind of a one-stop shop platform for those operations.
Great. So next, we're going to discuss how this can benefit the energy industry. Here we have the 640p radiometric sensor, which makes it ideal for utility inspections. This also supports the RTK module, which allows for an increased accuracy during missions with automated inspection types. We also have the we can capture both images in infrared and RGB at the same time. So on the bottom left, for example, in the split view, we can see that we get the RGB image on the right, and then we have the infrared on the left. So if you were to take a picture here, for example, both of these image types would be saved. And since it is a radiometric sensor, we also have the support of radiometric JPEGs for further analysis in DJI's thermal analysis tool. And finally, this is because it's a small and light drone, it's easier to take to inspections, and it's just more portable in general. What are your thoughts on this, Michael?
The Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced really reduces the cost of inspections by obviously not using more manpower that you have to have out in the field. It also cuts down on your having to put up scaffolding or to conduct those inspections, and even reduces the chances of putting somebody in a dangerous environment. So it really comes in handy, and definitely will be used out there. Now we'll go into the LinkedAll integrations. So something that we provide our customers is top-notch service and sales. We specialize in that sales and service model, and when purchasing a drone through us, we have the device ready for you once you actually pick it up. And once you actually get comfortable with it, we'll walk you through the process of the software, the drone itself, and then actually getting you approved through the Part 107 Class 2. We also assist you during doing a demonstration or anything like that. We can conduct those either at our office or your location. This really kind of gets you an idea of what you're getting into before you purchase that. Something to consider also is that we can help you with starting your drone program. We can get you into the right drone sector with each industry. Not only do you do that, but we also help you through the software process of selecting a software, because there are several softwares out there, but each one is a little bit different. We also help you with training, both Part 107 and actually getting comfortable with flying. And then lastly, integrating it into your day-to-day operations. Now we'll go right into the specifics and frequently asked questions section, and I'll hand it back over to Francisco.
Thanks. So in this section, we're going to be comparing the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual with the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. So for the first section right here on endurance, we'll see that with the RTK, without the RTK module, we have the same flight time, so 31 minutes. And then with the RTK module, we have up to 27 minutes. On the visual camera side, we have increased the megapixel size from 12 to 48, and the digital zoom is also has been increased to 32 times. On the thermal camera side, as I mentioned before, it has been increased from 160 by 120 to 640 by 512. And the frame rates have also been increased from 9 to 30. We also have an increase in, or just an overall add-on function for the digital zoom. It's up to 16 times digital zoom now, and this does support post-processing for the thermal SDK. On the RTK side, M2E Dual did not support RTK, whereas the M2E Advanced does support the custom network RTK. The controller is also supported for the DJI Smart Controller only for the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. And the maximum number of waypoints has been increased to 240 as compared to 99 on the Dual, which allows for more complex mission types. And finally, the ascent and descent speed have been increased to, the ascent speed is 6 meters per second, the descent speed is 5 meters per second, and the maximum tilt descent speed is now 7 meters per second. So overall, it's providing a much more powerful flight performance increase. Would you like to add anything to this, Michael?
Yes, absolutely. So as Francisco touched on it, the digital zoom does come quite in handy for tower inspections, tanks, and even in the search and rescue environment. Just as a reminder, also, the RTK for the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced is not designed for mapping and surveying, but does allow for the high position accuracy during an inspection. Now I'll hand it back off to Francisco.
So in this section, on the specification section, we're just gonna touch up on things that we haven't discussed. So here we have a maximum takeoff altitude at up to 6,000 meters. It is wind resistance capable of up to 10 meters per second, or roughly 22 miles per hour. And then the operating temperature range, if we convert this to Fahrenheit, would be 14 degrees Fahrenheit up to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. And as I mentioned earlier, this does support the DJI Smart Controller. And the maximum transmission range here in the US for the FCC standards would be 10 kilometers, or roughly 6 miles. The app compatibility is with the DJI Pilot app, and some of the SDKs that this drone supports includes the mobile SDK and the thermal SDK. Would you like to add anything to this, Michael?
I would. So something to consider also is you can still, even though it only works on DJI Pilot app, you can still add in your missions for those day-to-day operations within the Pilot app using the smart controller. Now we'll dive right into our next section, which is the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced versus the Autel Evo 2 Dual, and I'll hand it back off to Francisco.
So this is a quick visual comparison on some of the advantages and disadvantages of the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. So the first item on the list is the endurance. As you can see here, this is actually a disadvantage. You have a 40-minute flight time on the Evo 2 Dual, whereas our drone has a 31-minute flight time. The visual camera, however, is advantageous in the digital zoom capabilities. So as you can see, all of the other specs are the same, except for that, which is an improvement. And also on the thermal camera side, same resolution, same frame rates. However, we have a larger increase in the digital zoom capability. And also, our drone supports RTK through the Entrip system, while the Evo 2 does not have RTK support in the US. The transmission range is also a kilometer more on our drone. The size and weight is smaller and lighter. So overall, the price is more accessible, it's smaller, it's lighter, has better transmission range, larger zoom capabilities, radiometric and RTK capable. And after 2 years in the market, because we're discussing the M2E platform in general, we know that this has been demonstrated to be stable, reliable, and safe. We also have our 6-directional vision sensor. So if you guys are familiar with our drones, you'll know that we have a lot of experience in obstacle avoidance, and we believe that this is actually an advantage because of the many years that we have in this area. So, and of course, the main disadvantage is the shorter flight time, but more batteries can alleviate this. Yeah, would you like to add anything to this, Michael?
I would. So the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced, as Francisco touched on, is built on a proven platform through the Mavic Enterprise series. Something also to consider, the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced is in a much more affordable price range from the Autel Evo 2 Dual, and even if you're not quite ready to jump into the Matrice 300 RTK, this is also a very attractive option too. Now we'll dive right into our FAQ section 1, and I'll hand it back off to Francisco.
Thanks. So in this section, I'm just going to touch up on the items that I believe would be most relevant to our audience. The first one is, does the M2E Advanced support swappable cameras? Can I swap the camera from the M2E Dual, for example, to the M2E Advanced? And the answer is no. Currently, swapping is not supported. If you would like the larger resolution sensor or you just need radiometric information, you will have to upgrade. The next item I would like to touch up on is the M2E Advanced waterproof? So it's not. It's just keep in mind, just be careful if you're flying out there and it starts to rain. Just do keep that in mind. It's not waterproof. The next item I want to discuss is, let's see. Oh, will the M2EA support the iOS version of the DJI Pilot app? And the answer is no, it will not. It's Android only, so that's why it has the DJI. It's built in already into the DJI Smart Controller. And finally, which app is the M2EA compatible with? So as I mentioned, you can use the DJI Pilot app. However, you could also use third-party applications with the DJI Mobile SDK. Yeah, and anything to add to this section, Michael?
I do, absolutely. So having those higher amounts of waypoints, as you mentioned, also helps with the longer flight mission. And you can also, as Francisco mentioned, you can also post-process those thermal images in the DJI thermal analysis after it's been updated for the advanced. So we'll dive right into FAQ2 and back to Francisco.
So in this section, the first one I'll discuss is the first question, which says, can I add a timestamp watermark to the photos taken by the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced? So this is supported with the visible light photos only. The next question we'll discuss is, can I use the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced for aerial surveying? So it's not specifically designed for aerial surveying. We have other drones like the Phantom 4 RTK that have certain features for that type of work. However, you can use the mapping missions mode in the DJI Pilot application to capture images for if you would like to create models, for example. But just know that there are other drones for surveying use. Let's see. The next question is, okay, is PPK supported on the M2E Advance? And the answer is no. Again, this is not a surveying drone, which is why this function is not supported. And finally, we have, can the M2EA be used with the DRTK2 mobile station for the Phantom 4 RTK or the Matrice series? And the answer is it currently is not compatible. You would have to connect into the Ntrip network to get real-time corrections. Michael, do you have anything to add to this section?
I do, absolutely. So something to consider also is that the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced does still come with your spotlight, your beacon, and the speaker. That way you can still be using those if you already have a dual, for example. And then you can also use the similar case as you would with the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual. And then lastly, as Francisco mentioned, you want to make sure you still consider that the Ntrip network does require a subscription for that process. And now we'll go into our FAQ3, and I'll hand it back off to Francisco.
So in this section, the final 3 questions I'll review is the first one, which is what SDKs are supported by the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced? This currently supports the mobile SDK and thermal SDK. And with the thermal SDK, we allow our users to perform temperature analysis and post-processing of the radiometric JPEGs, which are the infrared photos taken by the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced with their own software. So if you're familiar with our JPEGs with our H20T series, for example, you'll be familiar with the thermal analysis tool that we have, and there will be an update at a later time to support the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced for this feature. Next question is, does M2EA support MSX mode, which is when it merges the thermal and visual cameras under the camera view? And the answer is no, it only supports the visible, light, infrared, and split mode modes. So we showed that earlier. Finally, the last question that we will review is, does the M2EA support GS Pro? And the answer is no, it does not. Anything to add to this, Michael?
Yes, so with that Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced, you mentioned that GS Pro does not work with it, but you do consider that the DJI Pilot app does still have those flight missions that you can accomplish what you need to do out in the field, and that way you can continue on with your day-to-day missions. Now I'm going to roll right into our Q&A session. I know that was a lot of information that we just got done discussing. If anybody has any questions, put them in the question box. I have several questions here that are listed. So I'm going to start from the top here. Let's see. What is the visual camera shutter type? Will it be a global shutter? And I will have Francisco help me with that one.
Yeah, so the sensor is not a global shutter type. It's a electronic shutter, so you will get that rolling effect. You know, yeah, I think this might be like a surveyor probably asking this type of question. For mechanical shutter, we would recommend the Phantom 4 RTK to reduce that rolling effect in your images. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. And the follow-up question to that is, will the Enterprise Advanced still work with the iPad apps? And that the answer to that is no, because it does primarily work on the DJI Smart Controller app with the DJI Pilot app. Is the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced a 32 times lossless zoom? And the short answer to that, and I'll have Francisco help me with this too, is no. But there is a 4 times lossless zoom.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yes. Next, does RTK network only work in the US? So there is RTK networks in the US, and then Francisco, correct me if I'm wrong on the international part of that.
Yeah, so that would depend on the Entrip service provider. There are some even within the US that are supporting only the East Coast, for example, and then the West Coast, for example. So it's best to check with the service provider to make sure that they are covering your area. Yeah.
Okay. Now, will the Advanced be produced in the USA for federal standards? The short answer is no, just because they are produced overseas with DJI. Next, what is the pricing for the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced and the RTK module? Definitely, I can send you a quote on those directly with an email. Will the Enterprise 2 Advanced work with either the Pix4D or drone deploy mission planning software? And I'll just confirm this also. This does not work with Pix4D or drone deploy because you still are running on the DJI Smart Controller with the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced.
So for this question, we do support through the mobile SDK third-party applications. So I would check with the software. So usually they'll have a list of drones that are supported. My assumption is that since this isn't necessarily designed for surveying, they may not develop their application to work for this drone. So I would just double check with that company to make sure that that it does support that. So and to just to add on to that, because we do have a you know, if you are using a third-party application, there is an accessory mount that you can purchase if you wanted to mount a different Android tablet or your desired iPad to this for the third-party applications. So just wanted to make a note of that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Can you please restate the differences between the screen split option between the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced and Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual. So the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced does offer split screen, while the Mavic 2 Enterprise Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual does not for that application.
Yeah, and the main reason for this is because the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced doesn't have the MSX mode, which overlays the information. So we thought it would be helpful to, at the very least, have this split mode. So you can see both the infrared and the visual information on the controller.
Absolutely.
Let me know if that helps. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do the accessories have their own power source, or are they driven by the drone battery? They're actually driven by the drone battery. So when you turn on the drone, it's powering that accessory through there, and then the actual accessory will come up on your DJI smart controller, and you'll be able to manipulate that from there. Does the camera post the EXIF last Latin long in the images? And I'll have Francisco assist me on this one.
Yep, definitely. It does have that information. It's called, we call it EXIF or metadata information. So when you take a picture, it will have the lat long and altitude information as well.
Absolutely. How does the thermal imaging help identify in the energy industry, specifically substation inspections? So that does definitely help it. You can definitely you can add on. You can get into the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced Thermal, and then you'll be able to see those heat signatures and so forth on your screen, so you can actually look at those substations.
Yeah, just to add on to that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so
go ahead.
If we're looking at certain components and with the radiometric information, if you take a picture of that, for example, you can through the thermal SDK look at that component, and if it surpasses a certain temperature threshold, for example, you will be able to see that information on there. Or even when you're in flight, because we do allow for measurements, you can set an alarm, for example, at let's say 100 Fahrenheit. So as you're flying, if the alarm goes off, you know that, okay, something is wrong here. We need to take pictures and then do further investigation. So that's how we've seen in the past our users taking advantage of this radiometric type of gimbal camera.
Absolutely. So next question is, can the attachments used with the Mavic Enterprise interchange with the Enterprise Advanced? That is correct, because it does use a speaker, the spotlight, and the beacon, but the RTK module cannot be used on previous versions of the Enterprise series. Next is the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced being released with the SDK file to the public so apps like Drone Deploy and others can use it. If so, when? Francisco, if you could help me on this one.
Yeah, let me maybe if we could take note of the gentleman's name or the person's name, so I can get back to you on that. Yeah, I'll be able to provide a better timeline. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And lastly, how is the flight time affected by using the accessories? The short answer, it's very minimal. As you can see earlier in the presentation with the RTK module, it was only a couple of minutes between 31 minutes of flight time without, and then 27 minutes with the RTK module. So it's really minimal in terms of the number of minutes that it changes when you add on those other accessories. And let's see here, more questions. Will the radiometric JPEGs be able to be viewed in third-party software?
So
Francisco?
as of right now, yeah, as of right now, it's through our thermal analysis tool. We are having an internal discussion for third-party software, but I'll have to get back to you on that.
Absolutely. Let's see here. And I actually don't have any more questions to answer. I want to thank everybody that has attended today's webinar. If you have any further questions, please feel free to email us at sales@linkedall.com and give us a call at 281-822-9892. And we will share this recording with you also. And please keep in mind that we are just off of West Park Drive and Beltway in Houston, Texas, and we're here to help you. I want to say thank you to Francisco for attending the webinar also, and each one of our agencies and customers that have attended here in addition to that. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thank you all. Thanks for having me. Take care. Bye.
All righty, thank you.